Hello. Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone. This is Mayor Shawyn Patterson Howard. Thank you for waiting an extra few minutes. We just wanted to make sure that we have everything ready to go for you. Tonight, we are here on Sundays with Sean. We have a special edition. We have four young men who I know and I've known for many years who are here tonight to tell their story, to be very honest about their past, their journey, what they're doing now, and to give a special message to our young people. We're asking that you please take a moment to share this right now. Please take a moment to share it or start a watch party on your page. We want to make sure that we are reaching as many people as possible because we're going to have some real hard discussion tonight, and we want you all to be a part of it. Here in Mount Vernon and throughout the country, we have seen an increase in shootings. Some feel it's connected to the pandemic. Some feel it's connected to the economy crashing because of the pandemic. But regardless of whether it's pandemic, the economy, or people who are losing hope, we are losing lives in many of our communities, our urban communities throughout the country. And tonight I have brought on four special guests who are going to talk about their experience. Each one of these gentlemen will share their story. Each one of them were convicted of a murder charge by the time they were 18, and each of them served at least 25 years in prison for their act. And they're here tonight to share the honesty of their experience, their journey, their struggle, and their desire to give back to the community and make a difference. And so right now I'm going to bring on to the screen, we're going to bring on our Daoud Nashid, who I grew up knowing as Soup, Monty,
Good
who I've
evening.
worked with and brought on at the Y, Johnnie Bunting, who I've had the opportunity to work with in the community with young people, and Normond Gainey, who I've worked with, and he's also volunteered over the years. So I want to start out, Normond, I'm going to start out with you. I know you're the most nervous, but it's okay. I can't hear you. Hello?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
there.
good.
So I want to make sure you're going to speak up nice and loud. But Normond, tell us your story. You went in at 14 years of age. At 14 years of age, can you tell us what happened?
Yes, I shot and killed somebody on July 16th, 1991, at approximately 3 in the morning on Fifth Avenue between 3rd and 4th Street. Uh, I got arrested on the 19th, 3 days later on 3rd Street in a pool hall, and then it went from there.
Keep sharing. It's okay. I just had to close the door because I could hear you. So you were 14 years old. What was going through your mind that night? Do you remember?
Um, things happen fast, so it just basically helping my friend. That at the end, I thought I was helping. Actually, I wasn't helping. I created a worse problem than for all of us. You know, him, my families, all others that was there. So, in thinking I was helping, I actually was causing more harm.
Okay.
So after we probably fast forward a little bit because I don't remember a lot of things. Maybe that's selective. Fast forward now, I'm in Woodfield Cottage up in Valhalla, New York. That's a new experience for me. Away from my mother, my family. That's really hurt me the most through the whole ordeal, being away from my mother. You know, just going through the phases, going through court. I'm like you said, I'm 14. I don't know nothing about the law. Um, it hurted me to see my mother, but through the whole court phase, I really wasn't into it, like as in stress. My stress came from my mother and my sister and all my family coming to court and expressing it and being emotionally charged, over the incident. So that's where the stress at that moment came. I blew trial in '92 at the age of 15. And I went up. Eventually, I went up to Brookwood Secure Center, which is in Clabrack, New York, up by Albany, and I was there for 3.5 years. There, I spent most of the time working out. I got introduced into bodybuilding. I was doing that. I loved basketball, so that's mainly we played basketball. But my main thing was to get my GED. So when I got there, I went to school. I was when I was home when I was growing up. I went to CJ Parker. I was in the honor roll. I was doing good. So it was just behavioral issues, I guess I had. So when I went to Division for Youth, that's the first thing I made sure I got was my GED. So after I got that, it was just jobs, working, kitchen. But there was staff. I remember a staff, Bob Belterman. He smoked about 10 packs a day. It was crazy. He was the staff working in my house, and he was my one-on-one. We used to have talks, and like I always tell people, sometimes somebody won't grasp something just when you say it. It may take time. And I remember talking, and each time we talked, he would give me a jewel, and it was not just him; it was other staff. Not every staff cared. Most staff came, got their money and left, but there was some staff that did care. And I remember I got close to Fran Zangi. He's the director, and he used to have to go up to his office. He said, "Have me come up, clean the office for pizza tickets," and we could talk. We got the connection. That he died. He died in winter of '94. And fast forward, I turned 18. I went to corrections. My first facility was downstate. I really wasn't. A lot of people say that it's naturally for people to be scared to go into a new environment. But my thing, well, I wasn't scared. I have to do time. There's no. At that time anyway, I didn't have a conscience. If it comes down later, me hurting somebody wasn't something that I thought about. If I had to hurt somebody, they got hurt. So my thing was, I bleed, they bleed. So whatever happens, happens. I didn't have an issue with somebody raping me. I didn't, because my mama always told me, somebody do something to you, baby, you make sure you take care of it. So that was approval for me right there. So if I always said somebody did something to me, I don't care about it. Whatever result happened, it happened. So fast forward, and that was '95. I came into the Department of Corrections at the age of 18. I went to Sing Sing. It was my first facility. That was a very big experience. I learned basically the prison trade going through Sing Sing, and it just sharpened as I went older. I turned 19 in Comstock. I left Sing Sing about a week or two before my birthday. I didn't stay in Comstock long. Finally we had to go to the dorm and come back to get our property, but we was going to the mess hall and somebody got cut right in front of me. And I said, it's on. It was that type of, I knew it was that type of environment. So, I joined a gang. I became a Crip. Eventually had my own set. And basically
in jail.
In jail.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they run to them type of things for protection and love or whatever. That wasn't my thing. Was I was into violence. That was my thing. So the guys that I knew for years, they was a part of it. So I joined it. Being stupid, not thinking of the future of the problems that could cause me or whatever. So, and it was just that type of lifestyle, for a long while until 04, when I was in up north in Franklin, I believe. There was a big incident between Bloods and Crips, and I ended up going to the box. I got 3 years. I got 2 tickets for being a gang leader, violence, and there's a whole bunch of things. But I ended up getting the year back. But I did about 2.5 years in upstate, which is a big special housing unit, locked down 24/7. And and it was then that I made the conscious decision that I have to think about those who love me. I was out with my mother, my family, my friends. Me being in the gang, it was that type of. It wasn't saying that they love me or whatever. It was just that type of lifestyle. So I was more connected being in prison and living in the prison that I was living the prison life, not mindful of the outside life that I would eventually have to go out to. And the key foundation to that was my family. I wasn't thinking about my mother. Every year, every 2 years, I would go to the parole board, and most of the time, I'm coming out of the box. I'm 2 months out of the box for some stupidness, you know. So I had to take a real hard look at my life and say that I have to think seriously about those who love me in the street. And I started getting back into the Bible. I started reading the Bible more. My mother always told me to pray and read the Bible. And I started doing that, and I started guiding myself away from the negativity. I never wanted to be around no more negativity. The negative things that I used to like or drove me, it didn't drive me anymore. I started hanging around positive people and getting to more activities, because like they said, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I always try to stay busy, stay away from the negative things. And for the most part, that's what pushed me along my whole 26 years, staying busy, doing whatever I did, I made sure I did the best. And so people could know I still had a value, even though I was in prison. I felt that coming to the end, I was a political prisoner because here it is. I'm sitting in prison. I got all my programs, have nothing to do but just sit here, just sitting here. So that's when that also helped me reevaluate myself. Sitting here, I'm just sitting here wasting what I have value in the street. And I told my mother, and I tell anybody, all 26 years, my mind was in the street. Prison never did my time. I did my time. So when I got in the street, I came home. I was released July 10th, 2017. It was like I never left. I hit the street and I went running. I didn't chase nothing. I left behind nothing. I just went forward. August 1st, I had a job. I got it with my boy, Theo. He hooked me up, networking. I always tell people, if you're in prison, you want drugs, you want a knife, you need this, that, you know where to get it. You go out, you talk to a couple of people, and guarantee you before Rec's over, you had it, or whatever. It's the same way in the street. If you want to get what you got to get, you have to network, and you have to use the tool. And that's when that VO got me a job, and I worked out with you overnight, almost a year. And I started, getting used to the being in the community because I was away 26 years. So just saying me coming out, and it wasn't problems. There was some little problems, but it wasn't many.
So I'm gonna stop you for a minute, and I'm gonna ask you some short questions. So I just need some real quick answers. These are gonna be pointed questions. You kept saying your mom, your mom, your mom, your mom, and your family. So I'm gonna ask you, were your boys, did they visit you? Did they send you money? Did they help you get through these 26 years?
No, the only one I can honestly say was Kevin Farrington, aka Gans. Rest in peace. That was my boy. He's on my arm, my co-defendant's brother. Anytime I needed something, I asked him if he had it. If he didn't have it, he got it for me. And it's many people around the neighborhood I can say that I grew up with, that I call brother, that I know that I would have their back, but they wasn't there for me. And at the end of the day, I wasn't really looking for. I didn't care. My mother, Claudia Dennis, that's the most wonderful woman in this world. She's been there for me every second. If I needed something, I would call her. If she didn't have it, she didn't have it.
Okay. So it was your mom and it was your family who was there for you. I'm gonna come back to you, so don't go. I'm gonna come back to you. So Johnny, can you tell us, how give us a little bit of your story?
A little bit of my story. From the Bronx, I was selling drugs and eating all projects, and I got robbed by someone. In retaliation for the robbery, stabbed him up. He died. Now, I ended up going to trial. I got 20 to life sentence. I ended up serving 5 years, 7 months, and 5 days.
You said
Now,
25 years?
I didn't
You
have
said 25 years.
7
Okay.
months and 5 days. Yes. I give you every day of it because I did every day of it. And I tell the kids when I do my speaking engagements, because every day counts. And it made me who I am. And I come out here with the fire. But let me back up a little bit. Going through up north and everything, I didn't learn. I still had the fire in me that I had to be somebody. I had to walk with my chest, so on and so forth. So throughout the years, Elmira first, Southport, to the box, Coxsackie, I hit somebody, went to the box, did a year. After that, I went to Auburn. Auburn started my flow because I learned that they had a drug trade. I was a drug dealer before I came into prison, and I turned back into the drug dealer again. Started getting drug money in there, thousands of dollars, doing things, put a lot of people on, helping people out, was helping my family out. I'm not saying this to glorify it. This is just my story. Throughout my years from Auburn to Clinton, Comstock, Attica, jail to jail, doing things. My name was Force, Force. That was my nickname. So I was known for coming into the spot, doing my thing. I was a leader, but it wasn't in the sense of how they had their gangs. I just put together my own clique and sell drugs. That's what I was doing.
So jail is really not about rehabilitation.
Well, it wasn't for me
at that time.
Yeah, because I got locked up when I was 17. So by the time I got to Auburn, which was 92, I just was turning 20. So in my head, status meant something. Status was you got to have the money, you got to have the flash. Even in prison, I was walking around with gold chains and more than one ring and all this stuff that I thought made me somebody. And a lot of us was thinking that. I was hustling. If you wanted to get somebody hit, people come to me. I'll take contracts, get them hit, made a little money. That's how I really got onto the drugs, because I got somebody hit and I accepted drugs as a payment, and it was off to the races from there. Not saying it to glorify it. This is just my story. Now, as time progressed, I started thinking, the closer I get to 20 years, I started thinking, let me start putting myself in a position to get home, because I still have the hustler spirit. Now I need to start directing it towards something that I could take to the street, because I don't want to go to the street and be a big time drug dealer. When I was 20, I was thinking yes. When I got to 30, I was thinking, no, I need to put myself in a position that I could be an asset to my community, still be able to make some money, have a family, and not worry about having the cuffs put on me. So I ended up writing a couple of books. I wrote a book called Son of Solomon that I actually entered into a contest and won the Editor's Choice Award in, 2008. And I wrote another book called Enterprise Corruption. Now I started my own company. That was my first company that I ever started while I was in prison. And the goal was to be able to accumulate some type of income so that when I get out, I would have something going on, because I know myself. If I would have stepped out without having something going on, I would have reverted back to what I knew how to do. And I was selling drugs. So I said, I need to put myself in a position, even if it isn't as successful as I want it to be, I needed to get myself trained to doing work the honest way.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got out, The books wasn't.
Hold on, we lost your sound. Johnny, we lost your sound.
My phone rang. I had to refuse it.
There you go. Okay.
So when I got out, I was talking about, because I believe in speaking things into existence. I was talking about helping the youth and being able to tell them, listen, drugs ain't the thing. Killing people ain't the thing. I developed a conscience, meaning that I got locked up, similar to what the brother said, you're not worried about hurting somebody. Now I'm thinking, I don't want to hurt nobody. I want people to be able to look up to me. People was looking up to me for the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons.
I want people to look up to me and be like, I want to be like him. He's doing something for the community. So I linked up with Nesta Felix. I'm sure you know her.
Yes.
And I started basketball coaching. I love basketball. So I started coaching and mentoring the kids. And then next, I met someone else, Chandri Bridges, and they put me in front of schools. I was doing speaking engagements in front of schools. I linked up with someone else in Albany, and I was doing speaking engagements. I spent a lot of time at HU, the box, the hole, whatever you want to call it. My last 6 years in prison was spent in Southport. That's a 23-hour lockdown spot. And I was able to talk about how it makes us degenerates. It takes away from our spirits and our minds, and it makes us monsters. And then it releases us back into society and wonder why we go back to doing degenerate things. I was able to keep my own sanity because in the box is where I was producing these books.
Okay.
My thing was, I'm trying to tell the youth, listen, it's a better way. I ended up buying a car wash. And what did I do? I hired some youth. I ended up having to get rid of most of them, but I hired them. I hired people that was domestic violence. I hired people with dependency issues. I hired people that was in homeless shelters because I felt in order for me to do my part in combating crime, I got to help the people that really need it. These people really needed money. So I'm like, well, if I can help them get some money, then I don't have to worry about at least these individuals trying to rob me, my wife, my father. You know what I'm saying? And that was my way of contribute to the community because I've done a lot of bad. Yeah, I have. But now it's time for me to stack up my good points.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question. Knowing that you took a life, how did you reconcile that in yourself? How did you handle that? And when you came out, was there any family still in the neighborhood or anyone that you came across that remembered that knew it? How did you handle that? Because a lot of these young guys out here think that that's the way to get street credibility, feeling like it's not going to be something that's going to mean something to them. I don't know if it ever haunted you. I don't know how you reconcile that. I don't know if you had to pray it out. I'm not sure.
All right. Great question. I remember one time when I was locked up, I had a dream. I had a dream that the deceased, I ran into him at a bus stop and we started fighting. And I was like, aren't you dead? But it was so real that it hurt me because up until then, it didn't bother me. So this was like an awakening of my conscience, of my spirit, of actually feeling remorse. So when I first came home, I'm good at the law. I learned a lot of law. I'm like a lawyer, smart with law. And I went to college when I first came home. I got a degree as paralegal. Okay. And I used to get off at 34th Street and I'll be walking through and there'll be people begging and I was handing out $20 bills. And my family was saying, yo, you crazy. You handing out money like that? And I'm like, listen, I know how to get money. I didn't know how to get free. So these are things that it was little things that I was doing. Mount Vernon, I come down the street, people begging, I'm handing out $20 bills. It's not like that actually took away from what I've done, but it helped me with my own conscience and my own way of being penitent and helping others. And every time I get the opportunity to speak to people and let them know that this ain't the way, you have to be more conscious of life.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a fight, both people can walk away and live to talk about it. When you take a life, that's over. It not only did it have an effect on him by ending his life, it had an effect on his family, it had an effect on me, it had an effect on my family. So it was like, it was destructive in every direction. And I didn't want to promote that. So it's easy for me to be able to tell people, listen, that ain't the move. I made a lot of money in a short period of time and did a whole lot of time. You know what I'm saying? And now I've been home almost 6 years. I got out January 6, 2015. Now, I've been able to do work, put money in people's pocket, help the community, do things that make me look like a role model to the children that's worth mimicking, worth emulating, and I can be proud. Like the last 4 mayors of Mount Vernon, we spoke. Like I wasn't talking to no mayors when I was home, like when I was a kid. And people respect me. I like that respect, not the fear respect that I used to have. I like the genuine respect that people like me. Police come by the car wash, get their cars washed. They like me. I like that. I like that respect. I like being able to say, listen, we're promoting the Black Lives Matter. So I have to be able to say, listen, that life mattered. It's like my life mattered, my family life mattered. If you have an issue with each other, talk it out. There's a way to resolve things without getting to the violence.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we're gonna come back to you. So I'm gonna go over here to Daoud Nashid, also known as Soup.
Good.
So Soup, share with us a little bit about your journey and some messages that you want to give to our young people, because like Johnny said, we're not here to glorify the act of homicide, but we're here to really talk about your journey, how you made it through your time, the impact it had on your life and your family, and how now that you're home, you are making a difference and giving back.
Thank you. Greetings, family. I hope I don't get cut off. I've been having a lot of technical difficulties, but I'm gonna hope and pray that I can get through this thing and I won't get interrupted by technology. So again, my name is Daoud Nashid. Many of you know me as Soup. I'm a native Mount Vernon guy. I grew up here. I went away in July of 1985.
So Soup got cut off. We're gonna let him come back in, but Monty, I'm gonna let you jump in, and we're gonna ask you those same questions, Monty. I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey. You went in when you were 18. You did 26 years.
When yes, and but let me rewind it back. It started before then.
Oh my
Started
God!
when I was 12.
Hold on.
I started going
Hold on, Daoud.
group homes.
Okay,
Oh, you
Daoud,
back
you
in?
wanna jump back in?
Yeah, I'm back there.
Go ahead, Daoud. Finish doing what you was doing.
Sure, okay, so this is the deal. I went
froze?
away in '85. I regrettably got involved with drug dealing. We did a lot of drug dealing in the city of Mount Vernon. I'm definitely not proud of that. Peddled a lot of poison in the city of Mount Vernon.
Wow, Daoud. Yeah, he froze again. So when he comes back in, we're gonna try and find another way to do this. We might just have him take his camera off. But Monty, we're gonna let you go.
All right. Like when you told me, I went in when I was 18, but I'm gonna go back further than that, where my mind altered and I started doing wrong things and took to the streets. I was always around. My mother was always around. That was my best friend. I did everything. She wasn't really too tight. She was drinking. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. She's struggling. I took to the streets. Don't get me wrong. Me and my mother was the tightest thing on this earth. But I watched her struggle and it gave me a drive. I wasn't old enough to work then. I went to the streets. I started selling drugs, carrying weapons, selling, going, doing what I'm doing, not listening. I didn't have a care in the world, no respect for myself or society. I went straight hard, straight to the streets, not caring, not thinking. And I don't think now that as I got older, it's not that I didn't care. I didn't know how to think then. I only thought for myself, selfish. I didn't think about society, the people who I was hurting, this and all that. Then it led up when I got 18. I came home, 18, still selling drugs, took to the streets again. Then I ended up taking a life. And, you know, I went away 26 years in prison, still not caring, not thinking, no, none of that. But I was killing, I killed the family and I killed my family. That's how I took that. Because I remember one of the things that my mother said when she brought my son. I never made it home to my son or her. They both passed away. My mother said, "You're not trying to make it home to me and this boy." I didn't understand what that means. Because I'm in prison doing what I want to do, not thinking, stabbing people, selling drugs, not going to school, not educating myself. You know, I'm still living a life right inside prison because prison don't help you unless you want to help yourself. They don't give you nothing. They just throw you in a cell and go to rec. You have to really want to help yourself. They have programs, but if you don't have a desire, and I remember one time when you said to me, Ms. Howard, you said, "Where do you want to be? This is not right here. Could you look further?" I didn't know how to do that at that time. I was stagnated. I was stuck. You know what I'm saying? Thinking the way I think, not really hearing what people were saying to me to try to move forward to better yourself. So it took me like, I had 20 in life. It took me till I had 14 years in. I was always going to the box, stabbing people, cutting people, selling drugs. That's all I cared about. But when my mother said that, I was laying in the box. I had the 3 years. And then my son, everybody started passing away. When my father passed away first, then my mother, then my son. You know, I started looking. I said, damn, I ain't got no education. I ain't have a GED at a 5th grade reading level. Couldn't comprehend. So I said, damn, then I'm looking at old timers in prison. I said, damn, they already got 20-some years in. Then I'm watching them start to slip out. And I started realizing, I said, damn, I'm almost halfway through. I got 14 years in on the 20 line. That's when I went back to school. I started going to school, get my GED. Then I started taking violence programs. Then I became facilitators. I started running pre-release. You know, things like Johnny said, you start doing things where you're proud, and then they already looked at me and respected me. But like he said, you look at you for the wrong reason. They was glorifying all the wrong I was doing. You know, and a lot of them was glorified because they feared me. It wasn't true. They not my mans. You know, it's just that's a mentality. So a lot of the abnormal that we do behind the wall, we think is normal. We think that's normal, stabbing people, cutting people. You know, that's all we know.
It's the same behavior that a lot of people think is normal out here on the streets.
Yeah.
Stabbing people, selling drugs, robbing people, running women. They think that's normal.
Yeah, because we developed a mentality. And in there, like they always say, they put millions to rehabilitate people in prison. Prison don't rehabilitate you. It's when you want to change. They got certain programs you can go, but you have to put a desire. You have to feel a fire underneath you. You have to want to do that. And then when you do that, especially you known for doing what you're already doing in the yard, some people start thinking, oh, he changing. So you still fighting with like a seesaw. Or they think I'm getting soft. You know what I'm saying? Then you know you go back and forth. You fight with that mentality. But when you put your foot down in reality, just like I in the streets, you can do what you desire to do. No matter what people think. But when being us, and then you you're not educated, you can't think, your mentality, your self-esteem is low. You start thinking and worrying about what other people were saying about you. So it's hard for you to get over that hump if you start thinking like that. But once you come to grips in reality, and then you realize, hold it, it's a better way. I could do better. Just like I got all the people looking at me when I was doing all that, I can get people to look up to me when I'm doing right. And the right way is better when they look up to you.
So when you came home, you came home at the age of what, 44 after doing 26 years?
Yes.
Tell us about your transition home. What did that look like? And how did you stay on track? And what are you doing now to kind of break this cycle of violence in the community?
How I stayed on track, I came home really to nothing. But I came home to you giving me an opportunity, a job. I don't know what I would have did if I didn't have a job. That's one thing, coming out and you ain't got no job and you ain't got no money. You're going to go straight back. I didn't even have a place to live. I didn't have a place to live when I came home. Then I came, you gave me opportunity. I went to the Y, I volunteered. I did everything. Then you hired me.
Can you say that again? You volunteered.
I came to the Y, I volunteered. Then you seen what I was doing. You gave me an opportunity. Then I got a job. Then I started working with the youth. And I still continue to work with the youth. And, you know, I'm just blessed that I was given this opportunity by you. By you. I don't know who would have took a chance on me to go run around and keep filling out applications. They look at my background. That's meaning not giving me an opportunity, but you just got a stigma on me of what I did. And, you know, and what hurts me the most is I took a life, right? But I ain't only take a life from a family member. I killed my family too. You know what I'm saying? I took a father, took a brother, took an uncle. You know, so I tell the youth today, I don't run around and glorify that. It's nothing for me to glorify. I'm not no tough guy like that. I'd rather be home with my family, enjoy, you know, and do things the right way, help as many as people I could. And that's what I continue to do. That's all I know how to do. And sometimes I get personally involved because I take it personally when I see somebody struggling and I'm trying to help them and I see people that's not trying to help them. So, you know, sometimes it goes up and down. And then when people try to tell you, oh, he can't be helped, leave him alone. What? That's what I've been told all my life. I can't be helped. So I don't put that mentality in me to start believing he can't be helped. And that's a lot of time with the youth right now. People just push them away. And a lot of time the youth, they asking for help. They asking for help.
Absolutely.
They asking for it. They don't know how to come personally and say, yo, I need help. It's little ways. If you've been there and you've been through it, you already know what they going through.
So speak to that for a minute, because you work for Snug. You work for Snug. You work at the Y. Yes, you're still there. And you're a credible messenger.
Yes.
You're a credible messenger because you're someone who's been there, who's done that, and you're here to give back to the community.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of people that will criticize people for hiring people who've been out in the streets, who've done dirt, who've gone to jail, because they feel like, oh, you don't deserve a second chance, or there's nothing that you can do to change the community. But for the past 25, 30 years of my professional life, I found that it's people like yourself, Johnnie, Normond, Daoud, and so many others that I've come across that because of your life credentials and because of the fact that you're not trying to glorify what you did, you now use that to reach young people that most people would toss away. So tell me, as you're out there in the streets each day, working and walking and talking with these young people, what are you saying, and are you seeing any results in helping to turn their lives around?
I've seen people that didn't touch their lives, and they come up and thank me, and then they got jobs. You know, young ones that was out there. Bloods, Crips, you know, anyone come to me. You know, I'm credible going anywhere. I didn't touch their lives. Some of them supervisors now, they doing good, and they walk up to me and tell me, yo, OG, yo, thank you. I said, I didn't do it. I said, you did that because you wanted it. I just took the time out to tell you it's a better way to go about doing things. Don't follow, don't be, and go where I went. I never want to go to prison again. I never want to go to prison again. Not that I'm afraid of prison, but prison is not for me to glorify.
You did 26 years.
It's not for me to be, and all of us did this time right here. And one thing, the best feeling I got in life right now, besides as like you was my boss, you gave me an opportunity, you tell me what to do, we got to do. That's the normal. I'm talking about the abnormal, being told what to do, when to eat, when to sleep, when to shit. That's not normal. That'll take your insanity. It'll take it. And a lot of people can't do what we did. Everybody don't survive it. Everybody don't survive it because mentally you break down.
So Monty, I'm gonna ask you a real hard question.
Yes.
And I want you to be honest. How do you do this work? How do you stay out there on the streets, reaching out to these young people? How do you not give up? How do you not quit when you lose a young person? You told me just 2-3 days ago.
Just 2 days ago. I mean, you know what it is? And I say this to all of us, and I say this to you, Ms. Howard. I was once one of them. And I never wanted nobody to give up on me. So how I'm gonna give up on them? How I'm gonna make that decision to give up on them? And I've been giving up all my life. I had a few people that stayed there with me, but most turned their back and gave up on me. I don't know that. It's just a drive in my heart. Continue pushing forward. I might yell and scream at some of them, but to give up on them, no. I don't know how to do that. I don't have no back. I don't have no back when it comes to helping people. I'm right there. I don't know how to turn my back on you. I've never done that. I've never ran, never left nobody. I consider you as a friend. I stood up, and some of them wasn't even friends. But that's just the heart I was born with. So that's the passion I have to continue helping the youth so they don't have to go this way. There's ways you can go and you can enjoy life where you don't have to use violence. I said, I love to fight. But do I want to hurt somebody? No, I don't want to hurt nobody. I'm not going to run from you. None of that. But my first option is it's a better solution. We could talk about that. If I said something wrong, I'll offended you. I apologize, and we go there. Now, once I go there and you go somewhere else, I can't bend over as a man. Because I'm not going to let you do nothing, especially if I just came to you as a man and apologized to you as a man, did everything right to make it right. These youth don't have that today. They let other people talk for them. No man ever talked for me. Everything I did by choice. I made my decision. I laid in my bed. I never pointed no finger at nobody, which you know you gave me a blessing. And me and you had the opportunity. We worked together. You hired me, and I'm still working there at the Wild Snub. Anything you said, doing wrong, this and all that, I came, and you know I never made an excuse. I always been straight. Yeah.
And I wasn't always easy on you.
Nah, but I always been straight.
I was fair.
Straight fair. I don't know where I'd be right now. And it's different now. I'm like walking on eggshells now, because I don't know and I don't trust everybody. You know it could go any day. You know how this thing go.
You know how it goes.
Yeah,
but
I won't have no attitude towards nothing because I had a blessing and helped me adjust to society. So if I have to move on, I just have to put this foot down, the strength, and do something else. You always said, we're not going to do that forever.
Right.
I remember what you said. We're not gonna do that forever. And I don't think I'm gonna retire there. So I'm not
But
looking
while
forward to retiring there.
But while you're there, we want you to invest in yourself, continue with your
Yeah,
education, because your future is about having options. And the more you
yeah,
educate yourself and the more experience you have and the better choices you make, the more options you have as an adult. And it's the same thing for these young people. The more education they get, the better people they surround themselves with, and the
yeah.
better decisions and choices they make, the better options they'll have. But since we have Daoud here and he's not disappearing on us, I
Oh,
want
he
to
got
bring
right
our
back.
brother back in.
Soup
So
right back.
Dowling, so Soup is here. You know, it's interesting. All of you guys came from different places, different neighborhoods, but you all met somewhere throughout the state. Did you all cross each other's path?
Yes, we did. Actually, me and Monty was in we were in trouble in the Westchester County Jail. We stayed in trouble. But let me start this thing proper because I need
That's
to
right.
offer sincere I need to offer a sincere apology to my victim whose name is James Drummond.
All
It's
right.
important that you guys know that. Sincere
Yeah.
apology to his mother, whose name is Sharon. And a sincere apology to my community. Again, I went away 1985. Actually, I got involved with drug dealing. And I was a wayward youth as a very very young person. But in '85, I was involved with dealing drugs. Um, James Drummond dropped some drugs from my home, and I regrettably picked up a handgun. I shot him and I killed him. Um, I live with that every day. It's not something that's easy to live with. It does trouble me to this day, because James Drummond was a childhood friend of mine. I had known him all my life. We grew up together. We actually grew up in the same building. So his mother knew my mother. I knew his mother. And we were like a close knitted. We used to call ourselves extended family. Um, but I made a terrible decision. It was a tragic decision. And there's no undoing that. I took only son from his mother. I deprived him of the right to see his mother get old, to see his daughter be raised. And I own that. I'm fully responsible for that. And I offer a sincere apology to his family because I know that this thing, there's really, someone asked a question earlier, how do you reconcile with that? And I don't think you ever actually do. I just think you are able to move on. I went to prison, a high school dropout. Um, I secured a GED in prison. I eventually went and got associates, a bachelor's, and eventually a master's degree. But it wasn't hard. And I often ask myself, why could I have not done that on the outside without going to prison? And I'll tell you why. I have a brother, and he too was forced with a similar dilemma. But he had the discipline to say no, thank you. When we were offered the opportunity to deal drugs, he just said no, thank you. That was not something he wanted to do. Whereas I looked at it as an opportunity. And so I regret that decision. And I think a lot of young people are going to make terrible decisions. And some of them are going to be tragic. But I'm here to tell you that you really don't have to make those decisions, because I could have very easily listened to some of the elders that was trying to direct young people's lives. But I didn't. I rejected their advice. I rejected even their conversation. And so in prison, I went to prison in '85. And so when I get to prison, there are a lot of men in prison who had been there since the '70s. So prison is a different place than we see it as today. The men were very conscious. The men were concerned. Unlike today, there was not a disconnect with young people and older people. And so I was receptive. I was receptive to some of the information that was being shared with me by men who had been in prison since 70, 72, 75. All of my mentors had 70, 70 A numbers. And you know, I admired them. So I told you how I got involved with drug dealers. I obviously admired, I grew up in a community where there was a lot of negative and destructive attitudes. There were a lot of drug dealing going on. And unfortunately, I took toward that. I regrettably allowed older men in the community who were very negative and destructive. I allowed them to influence me. And so I became just like them. Um, and I say that, but I didn't know that at the time. But as I look back and I review that now, that whole piece now, I can easily see that I was emulating a lot of behaviors that I seen. I wasn't born with no genetic gene that predisposed me to violence. I don't think I was born violent. I think I learned how to be violent. In a community where violence was a norm. And so coming out of prison, staying in prison, having the opportunity to take advantage of some opportunities, I educated myself. It's not a good feeling to come to prison like, a high school dropout. So I went all the way to the 11th, 12th grade and decided I didn't want to participate in high school no more. And who does that? Not too many smart people, not too many bright people. But in prison, I began to do a lot of reading. I began to do a lot of studying. And I like to say that, education saved me. Some people go to prison, they turn to religion. Religion winds up saving them. In my case, I'm almost certain that it was education. And so 1997, I graduate from New York Theological Seminary. I'm awarded a master's degree, and it's a serious accomplishment. It's a really feeling good accomplishment. I'm become the first one in my family to get a college degree. And so, it felt really, really good. But it came at the expense of someone that was near and dear to me losing their life. And so I just want to share this really brief story with you guys. While I was in the master's degree program, there's this community in Rye Presbyterian Church, and they came and they offered the men, it was 15 of us, to send angel tree. They were part of something called Angel Tree, and they would send gifts to many of the men's families. I didn't have any children, and so it was suggested to me that I send a gift to the victim's family, the victim's daughter. And I didn't really think it was a really good idea, but I kind of went along with it. And so these people from Rye Presbyterian Church, they sent out to this individual's daughter. Um, they sent her a big organ, like a $250 organ. And I had told them that I wanted to be anonymous. And so the kid writes back and she says, "Thank you for the gift. However, I would like to know who is my angel, who is the person who sends this." And they come to me and they ask me, how should we respond to this? And I tell them, I think we should leave this alone. This is not something, I just killed this child's father, and now I'm sending a organ, donating an organ to them, and I just didn't feel right with that. I had been in contact with the family, and the family had expressed forgiveness to me. It just didn't feel right. And so I had told the people in Rye Presbyterian Church, so let's leave that alone. Let's not deal with that. And so I left it alone. I never dealt with it. And so 97. So I'm released from prison in 2014. And I want to come home. I want to do good. I want to make amends. I want to try to contribute. I want to be an asset rather than a liability, right? And so in order to do that, you have to engage the process. You have to become involved with your community. You have to make some very, very solid decisions if you want to be a part of the community. And so I aspired to be a part of the community. I went and I spoke Mayor Clinton Young. I met Miss Morris, a beautiful lady who happens to be Mike and Tommy's mother. and she asked me, I hear all these good things about you. However, do you have a job? And I was like, no, I don't have a job, but I have a resume. She said, well, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, do you have a job? Come see me Tuesday. And I went and see Miss Morris, Marlboro Neighborhood Health Center. She gave me a commitment. She gave me a job, my very first job, the first job I ever had in my entire life. And she told me, she said, listen, I believe in second chances. I believe you worked hard, and I believe you deserve a second chance. So I'm going to send you to get trained. And she flew me out to St. Louis. And I became a ACA, ACA, certified application counselor, working for health insurance. And so my job was to enroll everybody that I knew who had not health insurance, enroll them into some type of health insurance plan. And that was a really good feeling. And Miss Morris, she made me a supervisor. And there were some women that I knew from the health center that I went to school with. They didn't take to that idea. They weren't very supportive of that. It's like, this guy just come home from jail. This guy just come home from murder, and he's a supervisor. What's that about? And they took it to the boss, and the boss was like, listen, I hired him. I believe he can do the work. I make the decisions here, and I'm accepting resignations. If you guys feel like he shouldn't, he shouldn't be here. And so that really did a lot for me. That someone like Miss Morris would have that faith in me, and would allow me to be a part of the organization and allow me to function in some leadership capacity. So that really did a lot for me. And that was my first job. And so, I'm always a very, very respectful guy. One of the women came to me later on. She said, I really want to apologize to you because I signed that petition to get you out of here. But you're one of the most respectful guys here. And I signed it out of like a blind loyalty to some of the other women who were there. But it eventually worked itself out. And I've learned a lot working with Miss Morris. So I just wanted to thank her for that opportunity because the same way, Monty, you say you don't know where you would be without Shawyn. I don't know where I would be without Miss Carolyn Morris. And so I just definitely want to take a minute to personally thank her. And so coming home, it wasn't as, I had a lot of support. The transition wasn't as, difficult as it is, but I understand that the major concerns for anyone coming home is employment, and housing. Again, I was fortunate. I was able to get an apartment. I was able to get work. And I had a lot of support. I had some friends who were there with me from the beginning. And so thank God for them. Shout out to Billy Bob. Very, very strong supporter of mine. Mentor, brother who just took me from the very beginning, man. I got you. Don't worry about it, man. Because I was released from a place called Queensboro, and all of the cars looked very, very big to me. Being away 28 years, I didn't understand that at all. Cars were low to the ground, so now cars are very big and they're off the ground, and it just threw me for a loop. But we went out to City Island, we talked, and Billy has been there from the beginning. He told me that it's a different place. The world is a much different place. You have to work now. A lot of things we did as young men, we don't do anymore. And so we're going to support you. And I think having support is very crucial. A lot of men eventually go back to prison because they don't have support. A lot of men are not receptive to support. But if we're going to be effective in the world of reentry, we have to give genuine support. And we just can't support people with service. We have to provide meaningful support. Men coming home, they have no idea how to use a cell phone. They don't know what an email is. They can barely use a cell phone, and that was me. That was me. And they gave me a cell phone, iPhone. And I said, they called me and said, "Come on, let's go." I said, "Listen, I'm sitting here waiting for my parole officer to call." They told me, "Well, listen, you need to come on, let's go, because the phone can go with you. And when the parole officer calls you, you can talk to him, and that would be that." So that it was just a fascinating transition because at one time I was on the subway and the phone stopped working, and I gave the phone to this white guy, and he was like, "You can't be from around here because nobody around here gives up their phone freely." He asked me if it was a smartphone, and I was trying to get to Radio City Music Hall. I had went there as a young person, but I was traveling by train, and so I was trying to find it. But they showed me how to use Google Maps, and they showed me how to navigate with the phone. So I wasn't shy. I had to ask people how does this thing work. And so it was a real blessing. But I think the entire prison experience is people have to know that other people are really concerned with them, concerned for them. Because I don't know which one of you guys said it, but I heard it said here, and it's a consistent theme that if you can connect with someone who respects you, that person can mentor you. If you can connect with someone who respects you, that person can mentor you. And so, you know, not everyone is going to be a mentor. But it's important that we connect with young people, because somebody connected with us, right? This disconnect that is growing wider and wider amongst older and younger men. It has to be repaired. And one of the ways we repair it is just engage young people, man. Don't be afraid of young people. And we can't live like that. We can't be afraid of young people in our community, because they talk with a lot of bass in their voice. They wear their pants off their ass. That's unacceptable. If that's how they want to talk, if that's how they want to wear their clothes, that's cool. We hopefully we'll get around to sharing some things with them, and they may reconsider. They may reconsider, but we can't allow that disconnect to continuously exist. We can't allow it to grow. And we have to engage them, because Monty, you said it right. People didn't give up on you. So we're not in a position to give up on anyone. And I really, really believe that. While I was in prison, I met this guy named Wilbur Tatum. He was the publisher of the Amsterdam News. And he came in and he gave us a talk. We had a big riot in Coxsackie, and it was just very, very ugly. But the governor, Cuomo, the senior Cuomo, he had let Wilbur Tatum in, and he came in and gave us a talk. And he wasn't concerned about if you did it, if you were guilty, if you're innocent. He was less concerned with that, but he was like, listen, you guys are young. You come to prison young, you're gonna go home young. What are you gonna do what are you gonna do when you get out? That was the question he posed to us. You have the gift of time. You're here, you're not going anywhere, you have the gift of time. College programs are free, take advantage of them. And that's what a couple of us did. And it was at the head of Mr. Wilbur Tatum. He asked us, how many of you know that B squared plus or minus the square root of AC is a quadratic equation? And I always, during my prison experience, I always associated with members of Nation of Gods and Earths. So I was always with brothers that were part of the 5%, and mathematics was their language. And the brother that I knew really good, he didn't understand what that was. He said, well, if you get into the college program, you'll find out that's an algebraic equation. We was like, algebraic equation? We got to find out what that's about, because that sounds like something. That sounds like we could do something with that, right? And so that's why we went to the Junior College of Albany program that was in Coxsackie. A very, very strong program. I think it was one of the first programs in New York State, but it's where I got my associates, where I got my first start. Russell Sage, Junior College of Albany. And the professors back then.
Daoud, I want to ask you a question, because you got a lot of education in prison.
Right.
Normond, Monty, Johnny, all of you took advantage of things in prison. What can you say right now? Everyone always says there's nothing in the community, and that's really untrue. There are a lot of job training and educational programs, whether you get your OSHA certification or your heating, ventilation, air condition. There's all types of programs in the community for free. Right now. How do we get young people to come off the corners? And this is for any of you. How do we get these young men and women to come off of the corners, come off the block, come from hanging in the garage and in the basement and wherever they're hanging, and take advantage of these programs? People say if you build it, they'll come. But these programs are here, and we could find tickets to concerts. We could find a party that's underground, but people cannot find their way to a job training program that's free. What stops so many of our young people from taking advantage of this on this end?
I think young people stop themselves. I believe young people stop themselves. I believe that we have credible messages, and if we're credible, right, they're gonna listen to what it is we have to say. So a credible person has to suggest to them, like, listen, let's reconsider your decision not to participate in these programs, and let's have a conversation, because it all starts with a conversation, and there has to be trust there. There has to be real trust.
So I'm going to read this comment, because I said to you last night, it's crazy that each of you under the age of 20 went to jail and did at least 25 years. Some did 25, 7 months and 5 days, up to 28 years. And you said, but what's even crazier is that many of our peers manage to avoid the system, but they erect their own prison in the community, whether it be addiction, apathy, mental health, or they remain enslaved to intergenerational failure. I want Johnny to speak to that. Johnny, like how do we reach these young people out here who are kind of determined? I don't know if Johnny's frozen. If he's frozen, and he's frozen. So I want Monty and Normond to answer that question. How do we get young people and their parents? Because oftentimes you get a parent, there's nothing out here. There's nothing out here.
I mean, that's a good question, Mr. Howard, and that's one I work on every day. There's not one answer to that, because the strive, and like when you ask me, how do I keep going forward? That's how I keep going forward, to try to figure out, to help them, you know what I'm saying, continue talking to the youth, to get them to see a better way, let them know it's all right. You don't have to have your chest up all the time. Like I told most of the young youth, I respected more the young ones that stayed they self and that didn't act like tough guys. I didn't really respect the ones that acted tough. You putting on the act, that's a front. I liked the genuine, the one, I ain't with that. That's what I started putting myself around. The ones like, I'm gonna go back when me and Soup was growing up. When I used to think, and the young dudes that I was around, and I was older, and I was more faster than them, anybody that didn't want to do what I want to do, I used to call them a punk, pussy, this and all that. Let's go do this. But then as I got older and I started learning more, that wasn't no punk, pussy, or nobody. That was somebody who knew how to make a decision before I knew how to make a decision. You see what I'm saying?
Talk about it.
He made the right decision. I made the wrong decision.
Talk about it.
He ain't no punk, no none of that. And then like what Daoud said, he was fortunate. I was fortunate when I did my 26 years. I had people with me, but them was the people that was with me. It wasn't the ones I was performing for, being with, hanging out. It was the ones I was calling punk, pussy, you ain't doing nothing. Them the ones, look, jobs, they got careers, they got houses, they married, everything right now to this day that I'm in the streets. The other ones I was looking up to, they back in prison, they in the cemetery, they ain't did nothing.
So the people who were performing, because you just said that, and you said a whole bunch of people are out there in these streets performing, and they're trying to impress people. But those are not the ones that are going to have your back when it goes down.
At all.
It's the quiet ones that you call the punk and the pussy who made better decisions.
Them the ones that was them the ones, like, I love all black people, everything, but them the ones with my truly sincere friends that wanted what was best to me. Not the ones that I'm hanging out with thinking we cool, we going to do this and do that. Ain't none of them niggas stayed with me. And I don't even use that word. But that's just what they was at that time.
That's real facts. Johnny, Normond, I mean, we were talking about, you know, what do you tell these young people out here now? There's so many of them, like Monty said, who are performing. They're performing for the block. They're performing for the women. They're performing for the homies. They're performing for the fake OGs and trying to get their street cred up and their name up on the street. But there's programs in Mount Vernon and Yonkers and the Bronx and everywhere else that they can go to and do job training. They can go to and get education. How do we interrupt that cycle of, yo, I'm just gonna chill on this block and I'm gonna get this little light money? Because really, if you spend 10 hours on the corner and you make $100 that day, you made $10 an hour. That's less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. You're not making a whole bunch of money on the streets, and then you have to watch your back. And you know, so really, what is it worth? The minimum wage right now is $14 an hour. You can make much more working and doing fries at McDonald's.
Yeah, but they're not gonna do fries. They definitely not gonna do fries.
Can I say something?
I just think that, you know, we have to engage.
Was that you, Johnny, who said, can you say something?
Yeah, because my phone went dead, so I had to switch to phone.
Okay.
He was actually calling me, and my phone went out.
Yes.
Us four brothers, we represent over 100 years in prison.
100 years.
That has to mention something. We done walked these yards. We done went to these boxes. We done did what these people are glorified. We lived it. So we are definitely credible to be able to say, listen, that ain't it. Like, I've made a decent amount. I made a few $100,000 in my drug trade. Yeah, I did. And guess what? I made a few $100,000 legitimately. Like for real. Like, so it's like you can get into the business sector because there's a lot of money out here to be made legitimately. And you can brag about it, you can be proud about it. I had a Honda Accord when I was 17, my first car. I drive a GL 550. I got cars now, like luxury cars. Like, and I tell the guys that work for me and work with me, I'm like, listen, this stuff ain't hard to get. It's not hard to get. Now it's in here. It's what you're thinking. It's what your mindset is, because dealing with credit, I tell my guys how to obtain credit. And I came home with a 763 credit score because I had a credit card while I was in prison. I'm telling you, it's like, and it's not like I'm brilliant and all, but I'm kind of smart. And I was getting myself prepared to come home before I even stepped foot out here. I had a credit card about 7 years before I got home. So by the time I got home, I already had an established payment for years. And I was simply using a $300 credit limit credit card to buy candy that I would sell in the yard. But I paid it up every month. So
that brother's bright. That brother's sharp.
Yo, it's
they
like,
built up.
I'm telling you something little
but
things.
That's the conversation. But that's the conversation we have to have with young people. We have to talk about that.
And these are the things I tell them. I'm like, listen, one of the things that all four of us have in common is we were desensitized.
Absolutely.
We looked at this stuff on TV, they're killing, the glorified explosions and all this, and we like, life means nothing. But in our transition, we learned, listen, hold on a second. Life means everything.
Absolutely.
And we need to project that to these youth. And like, listen, we can't give that back. This is not a game. The video games, boom, boom, when you kill a guy, you get killed, you start over. There's no starting over.
No.
When the game is over, it's over.
So I'm gonna ask two questions, and I'm gonna give each of you kind of like 2 minutes, because I want to wrap up, but we want to definitely come and have you back and talk and go in more detail about a few things, because these are conversations that we need to have for our young people in our community. We could sit here and keep it sterile and stay all high bar, and that's not going to mean anything. You gotta reach deep and get gritty to reach those who are deep into some situations. So, you know, what is the call to action? What is the one thing right now that you could tell a young person to do to change their direction? And what is one thing that you would ask for adults in this community to do to help change the direction of a young person's life? So we want you to give one challenge to the young people and one challenge to adults. So we're going to start. I'm going to start with Normond. You want me to start with you, Normond, or you want me to come back to you? I got to come back to you. Hold on. Normond is muted. We can't hear him. Come back to him.
You gotta unmute yourself, brother.
So Dawood, what is one thing that you're going to do for what is one challenge to a young person and one challenge to an adult? What is
Young
the call?
people, I often tell young people, you know, you have to educate yourself, right? Like the GED, you know, is getting harder and harder. So if you're a high school dropout and you don't have a GED, that's really not good, because people hiring you don't know if you can read or write. GED basically says you can read or write. So I often tell young people, educate yourself. Educate yourself is important. Because with education, you're going to be allowed to do some things. You're going to be allowed to get a good job. You're going to be allowed to get in a good area in terms of when you begin to rent an apartment of your own. But if you're uneducated, you know, this whole being uneducated is likely going to follow a pattern of crime generative factors, right? So people that are uneducated, you know, they're going to make poor decisions, and there's going to be consequences for those decisions. And we are fortunate. We survived the traumatic experience, and we were able to get out, minimally affected. But not everyone will be as fortunate as us. Not everyone survives a 20, 25, 28-year sentence. All right. For adults in the community, I encourage them to engage young people. Stop being scared of young people. You know, there's no real reason for you to be scared of someone who looks just like you. There's really no real reason. That fear is unfounded. You don't have to be afraid of young people. They're not going to do anything to you. And so you can't live in fear. Talk to young people, engage them, start a conversation, because that's where it all starts. It starts with a conversation, and be open and honest with them. Don't bullshit them, and don't contradict. Don't contradict.
Say that.
Right? Because young people see that. They see all of that. And because once you get placed in that box, that you know, someone you're fronting, you're never going to reach them. There's absolutely nothing you can say to them that will make them develop a healthy respect for you. So to the elders in the community, engage young people. Do not give up on young people.
Thank you,
Do not give up on them.
Thank you. Normond, what is your message? One message, a call to action for our young people, and one message, a call to action for adults.
For the young people, I would say is open up your eyes, your ears, to be receptive to the information that's being provided. You know, you have one mouth and two ears. If you do more listening than talking, you will learn a lot more than what you are getting. You know, like be receptive. You know, everybody that's coming to you with something is not looking for something. And a lot of people have experienced that. There's always a string at the end of something that's given to somebody. So a lot of people don't want anything from you looking like they have to turn. So, like I said, for the youth, they need to be more engaged. Don't think that you know everything, because I'm 43 years old and you 14. You don't know more than me. Trust me, I know way more than you. And all the people, they have to be more of a leader, and a positive leader. You have a lot of older guys out here now that are using the younger guys to do a lot of their bidding, if you will, because it's not true anymore. The young guys are being held more accountable than they was before, because a lot of older guys would send younger guys to shoot this person or do this, do that, because they wasn't held accountable. So a lot of I would say for the older guys now, you need to be more of a role model than a destructive figure in the community. And that's what we have right now, for most part, is destructive figures.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Johnny, what's one thing that you would say to our young people? And we gotta remember, I'm giving each of you 2 minutes. So what's one thing that you would say to our young people as a call to action, and one thing you'd say to our adults as a call to action?
If you want to change the way things are with you, you have to change the things that you do in the way that you think. Meaning that if you don't have enough money, get out your comfort zone. Stop doing what you've been doing. Think of something else, because that's not working, and then move on. Now, my thing is, that's applicable to kids as well as the adults, but the adults have to be more of a help. As an example, I put my family, the younger ones, as authorized users on my credit. Remember, I told you I had a 763. So what I'm doing is I'm helping them to establish credit. And now I'm helping your credit to go up. Now you have to get some money, get a job, and to be able to have some type of income, because you have a step ahead of the game. We have to be able to start transferring wealth. And that's a simple way of being able to get them with a step ahead of the game, so they can get an apartment, they can get credit, they can get cars, they can get these simple things that they will need to be able to go back and forth. A lot of our other people, they take care of theirs and help them raise up. We have to level up and help our own get up there. And these are simple little tools: establishing credit, getting them to think grown-up style. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you,
Thank you, Johnny. And so, Monty, we're going to let you wrap it up. What is a piece of advice or a call to action for young people, and a call to action for adults? How are we going to challenge adults to step up and help our young people?
I'm gonna open up with the youth. I always try to explain to the youth every time I speak to them. You know, I go to the events in the schools, everything. You know, I give them my story, but I don't give them my story for them to glorify it. I say, don't glorify the wrong things. Everything that look cool is not cool. You know, don't follow nobody. I always telling them, make your own decision. Don't let nobody make your decision. You have a voice and you have a choice. The hardest thing is to say no, especially when you're around people that you think is your man and your homeboys. But you can say that one choice that can make the right decision for you to keep pushing forward. And like I say with the adults, like since I've been home right now, me personally, I've never misled a youth to do something I wouldn't do. So I would tell the older people, stop telling these young people to do stuff that you wouldn't do. You're not giving them a chance at life. You taking their life right from underneath them. So why would you mislead them? And you ain't even got the heart to go and do it yourself.
Facts.
You don't got the heart to go do it yourself. Stop putting them guns in their hands, making these young boys go do something that you wouldn't do. Because me at 52, if I was to do something like that and they tell me 25, I'm dead. You know, you start looking at the age limit. You putting these young boys in there. No, and then they leave them there. The youth leave them there. They mislead them. Stop misleading that youth. That's one thing I can say with me, and I pride myself. I did wrong all my life, here and there, up and down. I've never misled nobody. I know I couldn't be told what to do. So why I'm going to tell you to do something that I wouldn't do?
Well said, bro.
I ain't going to tell you to do something I'm not going to do. If I ain't say, me and you, let's go do this, no, I'm not going to direct you to go do nothing. Because I know I'm not going to go do it. So the misconception You act like you got these youth, the older ones act like they got these youth's best interests. Like everybody said, you wouldn't do it. So you shouldn't tell them to go and do nothing.
Thank
you.
you.
Monty.
Guys, I wanna say thank you. I wanna really, really say thank you. And I'm praying that, you know, we're able to get this out to our young people. Normond, slide over there because we can't even see you on the screen. Keep sliding. You know, violence cannot be glorified. The street life can't be glorified. People want to see the flash. They want to see the bling. They want to see the Benz, Beamer, and Bentley. They want to see the women, you know, but nobody's really here to talk about what happens when you go behind those walls. And even if you're never caught and you never serve time, like you said, you're still in a prison. You're still in a prison of addiction. You're still in a prison of having to look over your back. You still have to worry about if somebody's going to run up on you and take what you have, because there are some people who are not going to go out and hustle, but their job is just be that stick-up kid, and they're going to come and get what you have. And so you're always having to watch your back. And now you're not just having to watch your back, you have to watch the back of your family. And I can tell you, there's plenty of young men that I've sat in my office with over the last 20, 30 years who have expressed their exhaustion with having to look over their back, how exhausted they were having to worry about their families, and that they wanted an opportunity to do something different, but they just wasn't sure how to get out of it. Like you said earlier, because once you start trying to go right, people might think you're soft. So how do you handle people thinking you're soft? How do you balance that? And so I want to thank y'all. I want to thank y'all for your labor of love, for your labor, your sacrifice, and reaching out to our young people, for using your past not to glorify anything, but to help a young person find their way. And not just young people, because when people have come home from jail, all of you, I know each of you have gone out and put money in their pockets, have gone and taken people to the bank and taught them how to open up a bank account and how to deal with an ATM, how to have a cell phone, what the new bus routes and train routes are, and how to get housing, not just find a woman to, you know, stay up in her house, but how to get their own, so that you're not, I mean, come on, let's keep it 100. We can have that conversation.
No doubt.
Because I love to have that conversation with my brothers, with these sisters.
That's a whole nother program.
That's a whole nother program, but we're going to give them a tidbit. I can't tell you how many guys who came home from prison who said the first thing they looked for was a woman with Section 8 and kids, because they didn't have to worry about rent, and they didn't have to worry about food, because if you had enough kids, then you got enough food stamps, and all they needed to do was lay the pipe and get her hair done every once in a while.
That shit ain't working.
So that's I mean, y'all are laughing, and Johnny said,
I ain't laughing. That's the one that don't want nothing. Because I don't want no woman on Section 8 that's laying on her back. No, none of that. I want one that work. We both gonna work. We contribute. I want one to push me forward.
Talk about
Give me the right answer.
Because that's because you're about something, and that's because you're trying to move forward. But other people who are not trying to move forward, they might sometimes want that easy ride. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But what, you know, bottom line is we got to make sure that we're out here, that we're speaking to our youth. We can't turn our back on them. People will make mistakes. Some people will make mistakes and they won't go in, but we got to reach out to them. Others will make mistakes and they'll do time and they'll come home. We have to find a way to break the cycle and help them not to continue to go back in. And that's the work that y'all are doing. That's the work that I'm going to continue to do. You know, whether I'm mayor or in the community, I'm always going to make sure that we're speaking to the least of them, because if we don't provide services, the worst thing that you can have is someone who feels like they went to the college of criminality and now they know how to be a better criminal and come back into the community and terrorize the community. You're either going to help them go straight or you're going to deal with them when they're doing the wrong thing. So I'd rather help them find a way to go straight. Now, it's not going to work for everyone, but we're going to give it our best shot. And the thing that we also need to do is invest before they go into prison. We got to invest and help prevent them from getting into the life. So prevention, intervention, and restorative justice are the things we have to work on. I appreciate you guys. Love you.
Appreciate
Yes,
you.
4
Love you,
minutes,
sis.
100
Oh,
years.
I love everybody. I love everybody. Everybody.
Lots of wisdom,
Everybody.
guys. Y'all have a good night. Mount
Y'all be
Vernon,
safe.
whoever else is watching this, please share this with your friends. Sit down and watch this with a young person. Break up these clips and share it, because each of these men spoke some truth. They spoke from their heart. They spoke from their experience. And hopefully you're going to be able to use what they said to speak into the life of a young person. Don't be afraid to sit down with our young people. Take some time, share this with them, and have a conversation. And guys, I look forward to doing some more work with you as we go forward, not only in Mount Vernon, but wherever we need to do the work. Love you guys so
Love
much.
y'all
Love you
too.
more, sis.
All
Y'all be
right,
safe.
y'all all be safe. Have a blessed night.
Man,
Y'all
love.
with me.
Man, love, man, love. I see you, man. Hey, man, I remember you, man.
All right.
I remember that
we've
young
been,
guy.
we've been through it. I'm right there. You
Yeah.
know what it